Dear members, can we start our afternoon session? After the good news of this morning, and having completed a very important exercise, and in fact created history, let us now move back to item 5 on our agenda. And in fact, we have on my list 5 members who wanted to intervene: Palestine, Senegal, Djibouti, Poland, and Guatemala. By the time that you settle down, may I invite the Secretary to respond to a few queries which were raised this morning by some members. And after that, we are going to take the views and comments from these 5 members, which means that I'll pass over to the Secretary straight away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. And their encouraging comments in their interventions earlier this morning, and in particular to those new committee members who are pledging some support for our work going forward, and who did so. There were three specific questions which were asked of me, one from Austria and 2 from Philippines, if I have captured it correctly. Firstly, from Austria, the question was concerning the partnership approach to the capacity building program and how that would work. And I would have to say it's really too early to give you exactly where we are. What we are doing now is we haven't even started, but we have just found the partner with whom to undertake a feasibility study. The idea is to see what kind of partnerships we can undertake to have, let's say, reliable partners to multiply the effects of the capacity building program beyond those that we are able to implement ourselves directly, or as we do indeed with the Category 2 centers. So we will get back when we have more information on that. And there was 2 questions directly from the Philippines. The first concerned the outcomes of the Category 2 annual meeting of Category 2 centers this year. We had this year the 6th annual meeting of the Category 2 centers. And how we do those is, in fact, on General Assembly years. We host them in Paris immediately after the General Assembly. And they tend to be shorter meetings. So this year we held it immediately after the General Assembly, and there are shorter meetings than the alternate years when Category 2 centers tend to invite each other, and there we have longer meetings. So this year we had a shorter meeting, and there was just general discussions and sharing perspectives, updating on some of the new developments of the convention, including those that had just been adopted, the results framework, and so on. Category 2 centers exchanged ideas for collaboration amongst themselves. And so in that sense, there was no real outcome, except there was one important outcome where the center in Algeria offered to host next year's meeting for the Category 2 centers, which will then be held in Algeria. And it is in those meetings which are hosted by the Category 2 centers that we tend to spend more time and 2 days of more fuller discussions. So I don't know if that's an answer, but that's what happened. And on the first question about the structure of the sector in relation to our work, it really has no impact directly on our work. Our team has remained exactly the same. In fact, it gives us better access in a way to the Assistant Director General. So the impact for the Intangible Heritage Convention, has not. Our team has not been impacted by this restructuring. In fact, it's helped us in many ways. Again, those are my answers to the questions. I do hope they suffice. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I don't see our friends from Palestine in the room. In that case, can we, in the meantime, move to Senegal? And I see we have added Lebanon on our list. Please, Senegal.
Oui. Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais me joindre aux autres qui m'ont précédé pour féliciter le secrétariat. C'est un travail énorme qui a abattu pour la mise en œuvre de la Convention. Mais je voudrais surtout, comme l'a fait l'honorable délégué des Philippines, insister sur un aspect. La mise en œuvre de la Convention, ce n'est pas uniquement les inscriptions. C'est un ensemble de mécanismes, c'est un ensemble d'éléments que les États parties sont appelés à mettre en œuvre avec les communautés. C'est dans ce sens que le Sénégal avait inscrit très tôt, je le disais, tantôt, notre action dans la formation, renforcement de capacité, l'inventaire. Et ce sont ces éléments-là qui pourraient permettre à terme d'arriver peut-être vers des inscriptions crédibles. Et dans ce sens également, nous avons été accompagnés par l'UNESCO qui a compris cette démarche. Et c'est dans cette démarche que nous nous inscrivons, en travaillant surtout à l'éducation également du patrimoine. Au niveau des universités, nous travaillons avec une université pour élaborer des modules et nous allons vers l'école primaire dans un an. Et je pense que ce sont ces aspects-là que je voulais relever par rapport à ce qui a été dit au niveau du rapport du secrétariat, en me félicitant bien sûr de la mise en œuvre de toutes ces recommandations de l'Assemblée générale, notamment le groupe de travail sur l'outil, si vous voulez, de suivi et d'évaluation, mais également sur le travail qui a été fait pour l'assistance aux États membres dont nous sommes déjà bénéficiaires. Ce sont ces éléments-là sur lesquels j'ai voulu insister et je vais terminer par cette innovation. Nous venons de plonger tout à l'heure dans le patrimoine et je pense que nous autres, plus ou moins vieux de la vieille, hein, si vous voulez, on se remet en question. Et le secrétaire nous propose d'être un peu dans le temps du monde. Et le temps du monde, c'est le numérique. Alors, bravo. Et je pense que même nos jeunes, nos enfants, vont davantage mieux comprendre qu'est-ce qui se fait sur le patrimoine immatériel parce qu'ils sont toujours sur le laptop ou alors sur le portable. Et bravo encore une fois. Je vous remercie.
Merci Sénégal pour ces beaux mots. Et je passe tout de suite la parole à nos amis du Djibouti.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Mon intervention, je l'avais déjà programmée avant l'heure de la pause, mais cela a été un peu chamboulé par le fait que nous venons de vivre un moment unique avec la mise en place conjointe du projet de Corée. Nous venons de vivre un moment unique, plein d'émotions, qui nous a tous touchés. Et cela renforce le rôle de l'UNESCO dans le rapprochement des peuples et de l'instauration de la paix à travers le monde. Tout ça également accroît ma confiance dans les efforts constants que l'UNESCO réalise au profit de la culture dans un sens général. Par ailleurs, je voudrais un peu revenir sur le rapport présenté par Monsieur le secrétaire de la Convention et je tiens à lui renouveler, surtout le secrétaire, à lui renouveler mes félicitations pour ce rapport qui se spécifie, se caractérise par sa clarté, sa transparence, mais également sa densité. C'est un excellent travail que le secrétaire a fourni, malgré le nombre restreint de personnes qui évoluent dans ce secteur-là. Je voudrais, dans ce cadre-là, souligner que mon attention a été retenue par 3 points. Le premier point, c'est l'une des activités qui a été faite, c'est le rapprochement de l'intégration du PCI dans l'éducation formelle. Ces projets, qui constituent un facteur important dans le développement du PCI à travers le monde, a retenu toute mon attention dans la mesure où les enfants d'aujourd'hui deviendront les responsables de demain. Les universitaires d'aujourd'hui étudiants deviendront les responsables et les dirigeants politiques de nos pays de demain. Dès maintenant, s'ils sont déjà imprégnés des valeurs et des éléments du patrimoine culturel et matériel, nul doute qu'ils apporteront leur intégration et leur contribution et leur engagement total dans le développement et dans la mise en œuvre et la sauvegarde du patrimoine culturel et immatériel de l'humanité. Ça, c'était le premier. Le deuxième point, c'était les nouvelles technologies de l'information et de la communication qui constituent un élément important, un outil indispensable, un excellent diffuseur des connaissances, des savoirs, tant leur utilisation est déterminante dans la sauvegarde des éléments du patrimoine culturel de l'humanité. La leçon, ou bien la démonstration que nous venons de vivre juste après le déjeuner, nous a une fois de plus démontré l'urgence qui s'impose à nous, les responsables du patrimoine culturel et immatériel dans les pays respectifs, de s'approprier de ces nouvelles connaissances, de ces nouvelles technologies pour pouvoir contribuer à la sauvegarde de notre patrimoine culturel respectif. Par ailleurs, il est à souligner que le rapport du secrétaire de la Convention qui a été présenté se caractérise également par son pragmatisme réel. Et je le félicite encore, je lui dis bravo. Enfin, je voudrais déclarer également notre confiance dans la direction de la nouvelle directrice générale de l'UNESCO qui, avec la mise en place de différents responsables de différents domaines de l'UNESCO, augure une nouvelle ère qui va s'ouvrir, l'ère du partage des connaissances et de la mobilisation générale du patrimoine culturel de l'humanité. Je vous remercie et vous dis bravo.
Merci, Djibouti. I recognize our friend from Palestine who is now with us, and I'll ask the ambassador to comment on the report. Palestine, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Merci beaucoup. Permettez-moi tout d'abord de joindre ma voix à mes collègues qui ont remercié l'État hôte, puis féliciter le secrétariat pour leur travail, pas seulement pour leur rapport, mais le travail qui est derrière le rapport. Et on voit bien que les efforts sont continus. Nous sommes absolument contents pour cela. Il y a quelques points, malheureusement, tout ce que je voulais dire a été soulevé par nos collègues, par les précédents orateurs, notamment Philippines et les Pays-Bas. J'insiste que nous accordons beaucoup d'importance sur l'inscription et très peu pour l'après-inscription. Et ça, on voit que le secrétariat est en train de faire des efforts et je pense que aussi la réforme pour les periodic reporting aussi va jouer un rôle là-dedans. Il y a d'autres points qui vont venir après sur notre agenda. À part cette réforme, il y a aussi une question importante et j'espère que le secrétariat continuera à prendre soin de cette question qui est la protection du patrimoine immatériel, culturel immatériel dans les zones de conflit. Donc voilà, c'était ça le plus important. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Merci beaucoup. Et maintenant, on va écouter les commentaires de Pologne.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, we would like to congratulate Mauritius, the host country, for its chairmanship of the ICH committee and to thank for its warm hospitality. We congratulate also the Secretariat for its work done and for excellent report. We are looking forward to the next steps in developing of the Convention, and in particular, we would like to cooperate and reflect on the better use and revival of the Register of Good Safeguarding Practices. We are also expecting closer cooperation with the NGOs Forum. Poland is for the first time a member of this committee, and we will do our best to guard good spirit for its work. Concluding, I would like to stress that we are very proud to be here today at this historic moment when the committee adopted a joint nomination of the two Korean states. This decision has proved that culture is definitely a good tool of peace, and with this we could see the importance of UNESCO nowadays. We hope that this spirit of dialogue and reconciliation will prevail in the further work of the Convention. Thank you.
Thank you, Poland. May I now invite our friends from Guatemala to share with us their views.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Un saludo a todos los colegas y al país de Azerbaiyán, perdón, el país de Mauricio por recibirnos de manera muy especial desde la recepción de anoche y todas las atenciones que nos han dado. Para mí es un honor representar a Guatemala en esta ocasión y aportando un poco a la agenda, más que todo quería compartir lo que Guatemala también ha estado avanzando, pero también resaltar que hemos recibido el apoyo de UNESCO, creo yo, con las diferentes decisiones que se han tomado en el marco de la convención, ha sido fortalecer las capacidades de técnicos, de portadores de la cultura en Guatemala, que eso nos ha llevado a levantar inventarios de patrimonio intangible con la participación de las comunidades. Agradezco especialmente al país de Azerbaiyán por el financiamiento que nos dieron durante el año 2017 a través de la sensibilización y fortalecimiento de capacidades. Eso dio lugar a que 2 municipios de Guatemala, que es Esquipulas, un municipio muy reconocido por la fe católica, por la romería que se le hace a la imagen del Cristo Negro de Esquipulas. Así también el municipio de Santa Apolonia Chimaltenango, que se levantó el inventario del proceso de elaboración de la alfarería de ese municipio, ¿verdad? Gracias al apoyo del país de Azerbaiyán, que Guatemala está dando estos pasos importantes en materia de patrimonio intangible. También quisiera aprovechar para saludar la acción y la buena decisión que se tomó en torno a la inscripción conjunta de las 2 Coreas, que hoy pues hizo historia en esta asamblea. Como país de Guatemala estamos muy contentos y satisfechos de este resultado. Asimismo, quisiera pedir que esta asamblea siga siendo una forma de diálogo, de unión y de paz. Creo que los países que hoy estamos acá y que más adelante vamos a hacer propuestas, se nos debe escuchar, se nos debe dar la oportunidad para que podamos contestar a preguntas, ampliar información, para que UNESCO pues sea el centro del mundo, donde varios de nosotros venimos con la inquietud de fortalecer lo que es nuestro patrimonio cultural intangible a nivel general. Así que muchas gracias.
Thank you, Guatemala. I've got on my list 3 more countries, Lebanon and Togo, and then to conclude, we are going to come back again to Cuba. May I now invite Lebanon to share with us
Thank
their
you.
views.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, and your country for hosting us and for organizing this session. I would like also to thank Mr. Curtis and the Secretariat for the report and for all their efforts in making our work happen. Lebanon, as a very diverse country, gives high importance to acknowledging and preserving intangible heritage as a tool to widen understanding and to deepen reconciliation and promoting peace, the culture of peace and sustainable development. We do believe that it should be part of our daily education, and for that we have just launched a pilot project to introduce intangible heritage into the education system, and just now it's for the secondary school. In the same context, I would like to stress and to encourage the Secretariat to pursue its efforts for safeguarding the ICH in emergency situations, and that's for 2 reasons. One, Lebanon is a host country for over 1 million refugees, Syrian refugees, and the other is that Lebanon is still trying to return all the internally displaced Lebanese from the civil war back to their villages and cities. So for this, I do stress it, and thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, le Liban. Et je peux maintenant demander au Togo.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais profiter de cette occasion pour présenter à toutes les délégations et surtout au secrétariat de l'UNESCO les félicitations et les remerciements du Togo. Par notre auguste personne, nous sommes honorés de l'élection du Togo au comité intergouvernemental pour la sauvegarde du patrimoine culturel immatériel de l'UNESCO, qui a eu lieu en juin dernier. C'est avec une immense joie et un réel sentiment de satisfaction que nous avons accueilli cette bonne nouvelle qui fait honneur à notre pays et pour la première fois qui siège au comité. Nous vous remercions et croyons que, avec tout ce que l'UNESCO fait pour le patrimoine culturel immatériel, tous les pays vont emboîter le pas et défendre les objectifs de ce PCI. Le Togo a bénéficié d'un projet sur la valorisation, la sauvegarde de la pratique des instruments traditionnels et la phase pilote a réussi. Nous sommes honorés et nous sommes aussi ravis que l'UNESCO a continué sur le plan national pour qu'on puisse inventorier tous les éléments et pouvoir emboîter le pas pour la mise en œuvre de cette convention. Le Togo ne saurait, par ma personne, vous remercier encore pour ce que vous faites et pour tous les pays qui ont soutenu notre candidature. Sans trop tarder, nous remercions l'île Maurice pour nous avoir accueillis et pour nous avoir aidés à être présents parmi vous. Nous pensons que c'est un apprentissage que nous allons mettre en œuvre, c'est un renforcement de capacité et nous allons échanger avec tout le monde pour qu'on puisse ensemble sortir les PCI du monde qui pourra nous aider à travers le monde et qui pourra aussi nous aider à le sauvegarder. Je vous remercie.
Merci Togo. Et finalement, pour terminer cette première liste, je vais demander a Cuba.
Gracias, señor presidente. Nuestra delegación desea señalar una preocupación y es en relación a la participación de las oficinas fuera de sede en todo este proceso, sobre todo en las oficinas de sede del sector de la cultura, que tienen un % muy bajo en cuanto a la descentralización de los fondos que se gestionan para la implementación de proyectos. Y nos gustaría conocer cuáles son las medidas que se prevén para mejorar la capacidad de las oficinas regionales en el terreno para la implementación de estos proyectos y si se ha pensado un poco en cambiar o en mejorar todo el proceso de recuperación de costos de la implementación de los proyectos que hoy no quedan en las oficinas regionales y van directamente a la sede y que es un elemento que en el caso de las oficinas regionales para cultura tiene un impacto significativo en todo el trabajo que realizan de cara a la implementación de la convención. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Cuba. May I once again ask the Secretary to respond to a few of the comments and queries made by our friends from these few countries who intervened just now?
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, and I would like to thank the delegates who made a number of comments, of which we will take good note, including particularly some of the priority areas already identified, such as ICH in education and ICH in emergencies in the various forms that it takes. We will continue to work on that. This is on our agenda, and we continue to work on that. We also thank the acknowledgement given by various delegates to our work and highly appreciate that feedback. It is encouraging to us to see we are going in the right direction. I only sensed one specific question being from Cuba, unless I have missed something where a direct question was related to us. The question concerned the use of cost recovery. The cost recovery policy is a complex one. The ICH education money, and I'm not sure if that's what you mean, is being used on extra budget, on regular program budget, and regular program budget is not subject to cost recovery. So in that sense, the budgets we talked about, the field officers implementing the ICH education program, are not subject to cost recovery. So there is none at headquarters, there is none in the field. When there is extra budgetary projects, there is indeed cost recovery, and that cost recovery is normally, and I don't know if it hasn't been the case in one project, normally split along the lines of the various staff, regular program staff, because cost recovery can only be charged to regular program staff implementing a project. So I don't know if there's a specific project, but to say that cost recovery never goes to a field office does not seem to be the case as far as I'm aware, particularly with extra budgetary projects. Some are negotiated when the project is fully implemented by the field. There is cost recovery to the field office. When the project is implemented partially by the field and partially by headquarters, then the cost recovery is shared at the moment of the design of the project. So you know, if there is, perhaps we can speak later if there is one specific project where there's an issue, but it is, you know, I'm not aware that cost recovery is only for headquarters and not in the field. That's not the policy or as it's applied. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. May I now ask the committee to adopt draft decision 13.5 as shown on the screens. May I suggest that we proceed paragraph by paragraph. Paragraph 1. Do I see any objection? Adopted. Paragraph 2. Welcoming new states parties that ratify the convention. Adopted. Paragraph 3. Acknowledging the support provided by the Secretariat in governance and management mechanism of the convention. Adopted. Paragraph 4. Welcoming the progress made in the enhancement of national capacities towards safeguarding intangible cultural heritage. Are there any comment? Adopted. Paragraph 5. Taking note of the existing challenges regarding the network of facilitators. Adopted. Paragraph 6. Expressing concerns on the continued decline in the support towards capacity building program. Adopted. Paragraph 7. Welcoming the progress made in the implementation of the new funding priorities. Adopted. Paragraph 8. Taking note of the outreach and communication related activities. Adopted. Paragraph 9. Taking note of the utilization of the international assistance mechanism and the global capacity building program in respect of the elements inscribed on the urgent safeguarding list. Any issue? Adopted. Paragraph 10. Appreciating the dive into intangible cultural heritage initiative. Adopted. Paragraph 11. Noting the initiative on intangible cultural heritage. Yes, China, you are on paragraph 11. Yes, please, China.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My delegation just have a very slight amendment to this paragraph based on the RAF document provided by the Secretariat. We just like to suggest to amend this wording into thanks for the generous contribution from the private sector of the People's Republic of China, and then the remaining will be kept the same. And the rationale behind this amendment is like to keep the wording of this decision as what is normally expressed in other committee decisions. Thank you.
Yes, I wish to hear any comment on the amendment proposed. Can I just ask our friend from China to confirm whether this is in fact what they meant? Okay. Okay. I take it that this amendment is agreed upon. Zambia?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to just make a slight amendment where it says towards it. I think it sounds a little bit ambiguous. Maybe we should say for the generous contribution from the private sector of the People's Republic of China towards this area, not towards it. I think it's a bit too general. Towards this area, and invites the Secretariat to pursue its effort in this regard. Thank you.
Yes, I see also Republic also will be corrected, and I understand that Zambia made a slight correction, which is in fact it's more precise, and I don't see any issue from China or anyone else. I take it that the amendment has been approved by the committee members. Therefore, paragraph 11 is adopted as per amendment. Paragraph 12 is about developing lighter means for sharing safeguards efforts. Any adopted? Paragraph 13, calling state parties to support thematic and operational projects. Adopted. Dear members, we have now adopted each of the paragraphs, and we need to adopt the decision as a whole. Any objection, any issue? I therefore declare Decision 13-5 adopted as amended. I now invite you to examine item 6 on our agenda, voluntary supplementary contributions and other issues. Concerning the voluntary contributions, allow me to remind you that in accordance with Article 25.5 and 27 of our Constitution or our Convention, it is the responsibility of this committee to approve the voluntary supplementary contributions provided by state parties in addition to their annual assessed contributions. These contributions are intended for the implementation of activities that cannot be supported with the limited resources of UNESCO's regular budget. Therefore, I cannot stress enough their utmost importance for the implementation of the 2003 Convention. This item includes one other issues, which is the decision of the Executive Board at its 204th session to apply a new set of management cost rates to special accounts. I will now leave the floor to our Secretary, Mr. Curtis, to give us further details on this item. Secretary, Mr. Secretary, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. In compliance and accordance with Decision 12-6, the Secretariat has been requested to report on the progress in the implementation of any voluntary supplementary contribution it may have received since its last session, and the document before you includes such a report. Under this item, a generous offer of the Government of Japan for a new voluntary supplementary contribution is also presented for possible acceptance by the committee. This item also brings to the attention of the committee the decision of the 204th session of the Executive Board in relation to the new set of management cost rates for special accounts. This decision of course also concerns the fund of the Convention, and I will explain this issue in a little more detail later on, as the committee is expected to make a recommendation in this regard to the next session of the General Assembly in 2020. Allow me first to go through the state of affairs in relation to the voluntary supplementary contributions received since the last session of the committee. As you know, at its 12th session, the committee approved 2 new funding priorities for the period 2018 to 2021. First is strengthening capacities to safeguard intangible cultural heritage and contribute to sustainable development, which is in a continuation of the efforts to extend and extend the reach of the global capacity building strategy. And number 2, the second new one which was opened, was safeguarding intangible cultural heritage in formal and non-formal education. You can see on the screen the evolution of the voluntary supplementary contributions mobilized in support of the first funding priority. The Global Capacity Building Program. The graph shows a general decline since 2012. This decline reached its lowest point this current biennium. The decrease can be mainly explained by the sharp reduction in earmarked contributions made to the fund by state parties. During the reporting period, that is the first 6 months of this year, no contributions were received for earmarked activities related to the capacity building program. This steady decline over past biennia has shown a small sign of turning around through the fund's entrust arrangements. Since the beginning of the current biennium, 2 new projects have been initiated, thanks to the generous contributions made by Belgium and Flanders, in particular, to continue the project aimed at strengthening the sub-regional cooperation and national capacities in 7 southern African countries, as well as by Japan to strengthen national capacities for the effective implementation of the 2003 Convention in Lebanon. Although some donors have expressed an informal interest, no contributions have been received yet to support the second funding priority, which concerns intangible cultural heritage in education. Given this somewhat worrying situation, the committee may wish to encourage donors to support the 2 funding priorities through earmarked voluntary contributions to the ICH fund. And the situation is unfortunately no better when it comes to the support for the human resources of the Secretariat through voluntary contributions. During its last session, the General Assembly approved the creation of a new team, as I mentioned earlier, with the purpose of expanding and improving the reach of international assistance mechanism. And notwithstanding this very encouraging development, support for the human resource of the Secretariat through voluntary contribution remains essential in order to keep up with the volume of statutory obligations of the Convention. The team being recruited will alleviate only a small part of the increasing workload of the Secretariat, and this is also because it will mainly focus its initial efforts on tasks that are not being currently assumed by the Secretariat. These include effective implementation and monitoring systems for individual projects after the granting of international assistance funds. For this reason, once more, the committee may wish to further encourage donors to make new voluntary contributions to the sub-fund. In this regard, since the last session of the committee, the sub-fund has received a total of $64,917, thanks to generous contributions made by the governments of the People's Republic of China, Finland, Kazakhstan, and Montenegro. As I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, I am happy to transmit the wish of the government of Japan to further support the 2003 Convention through a voluntary supplementary contribution to the ICH Fund. You will recall that the committee at its 12th session acknowledged the need to convene an open-ended intergovernmental working group to reflect inter alia on the procedures for the removal of an element from a list and the transfer from one list to another, the nature and purposes of the lists and the register established under the Convention, and the relevance of various criteria for each of these mechanisms. The General Assembly at its 7th session earlier this year further underlined this need. It is expected that the results of the reflection will lead to the amendments of the operational directives with an improved and well thought out renewed mechanism for listings under the Convention. I would like to highlight that the decision of the committee is set broadly to discuss all relevant issues related to the listing mechanisms, as the word indeed inter alia suggests. Without wanting to preempt what the committee will discuss later this week, the Secretariat considers that other aspects of the listing mechanisms might also be included in this reflection. For example, the issues concerning the follow-up of inscribed elements on the list of the Convention that will be addressed under item 9. The intention of the Government of Japan, as expressed to the Secretariat, is to use this contribution to organize a preliminary meeting of experts in 2019 in order to prepare for an open-ended intergovernmental working group meeting which provisionally would be held in 2021. Subject to the acceptance of the committee on this offer, we are more or less confident that a meeting of experts can be organized next year, and the remaining amount will be used to support the organization of the open-ended working group, and that is why it is indicated provisionally for 2021. The Secretariat will seek additional resources if necessary to convene that working group. For now, the committee is asked to approve the generous offer of the Government of Japan, and details of which can be found in Annex 2 to this document. In the meantime, in order to explain some of the timing, I'd like to take you through a timeline of the other meetings that will be taking place next year. As you can see on the screen, the reflection will start with a meeting of experts in 2019. The outcome of this meeting should be reported to the 14th session of the committee. The 8th session of the General Assembly and the 15th session of the committee meeting would be further occasions to discuss the reflection before convening a meeting of the open-ended intergovernmental working group. The results of the working group could then be brought to the 16th session to agree on the amendments to the operational directives to be recommended to the General Assembly. Finally, at the 9th session of the General Assembly may adopt the amendments of the operational directives. The combination of a meeting of experts and the open-ended intergovernmental working group is a modality that proved very useful when developing the overall results framework. The timeline is indeed a bit long, but this is because of the complex nature of the reflection covering multiple issues and because of a number of other thematic or statutory meetings that have already been asked to take place. For example, the Secretariat will be organizing 2 additional meetings next year, one on the participation of accredited NGOs in the implementation of the Convention, and the other on intangible cultural heritages in emergencies, as per decisions 12-17 and 13-2 at Bureau 3 respectively. It will also be difficult to foresee an open-ended working group in 2020 because that is a year where the GA will take place. I would like to stress once again the complex and somewhat sensitive nature of this reflection, so the Secretariat considers it important to include many opportunities for discussions at the intergovernmental level. The current plans allows a careful preparation towards the open-ended intergovernmental working group. If I may, I'll move on now to the issue of the management cost rates. The Executive Board at its 204th session decided to approve a new set of management cost rates, which you can now see on the screens. Before going into detail with the decision, let me first recall the different kinds of contributions that compose the ICH Fund. On the one hand, the Fund receives annual assessed contributions as defined by Article 26 of the Convention, which have so far benefited from a special management cost rate derogation of 0%. This derogation was exceptionally granted by the Director General, not only to the ICH Fund, but also to comparable special accounts, such as the World Heritage Fund. On the other hand, the Fund may also receive voluntary contributions, as those made by state parties in support to earmarked activities or the sub-fund. These voluntary contributions were up to now subject to a standard management cost rate of 10%. Coming back to the decision taken by the Executive Board, multi-donor special accounts should now be subject to a new rate of 7% instead of the previous standard rate of 10%. Given the different regimes of management cost rates affecting the contributions received by the fund, this decision would have two different impacts on it. Voluntary contributions made by state parties will now benefit from a lower rate, from 10% to 7%. However, for the assessed contributions to the fund, the situation is different, because the application of the decision taken by the Executive Board would mean an increase in the rate from 0% to 7%. Given the special derogation granted by the Director General, the Executive Board recognized the need to undertake consultations with the governing bodies of the 2003 Convention prior to any potential implementation of this decision. This same exception was made with the 1972 Convention, which committee, during its last session held in Bahrain, recommended not to apply the new management cost rate in relation to assessed contributions. Hence, this committee is asked to make a recommendation in this regard to the next session of the General Assembly to be held in June 2020. If a 7% rate is applied on the current plan of expenditure, which is $9,590,922, approved by the 7GA, $671,364 United States dollars would have to be allocated as management costs. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for your clear presentation. Dear members, allow me to first express my sincere gratitude to those who generously provided support to the Convention and its Secretariat since our last session. These are namely Belgium and Flanders, the People's Republic of China, Finland, Japan, Kazakhstan, Montenegro, and Singapore. At the same time, from Mr. Curtis' presentation, we understand that the situation of voluntary contributions continues to be extremely worrying. This is something that requires our attention, and we are asked to take a decision on two issues. First, accept the generous offer for a new voluntary supplementary contribution made by the government of Japan, and secondly, discuss the potential modification of the current management cost rate that applies to the Intangible Cultural Heritage Fund. I will now open the floor for your kind reflections on this item. I see Japan, Palestine. Can we start with Japan, please?
Thank you very much, Chair. As kindly introduced by the Secretariat and as described in Annex 2 of the document of this item, Japan has decided to make voluntary contribution to the ICH Fund for organizing an expert meeting and for supporting a meeting of the open-ended Intergovernmental Working Group with a view to reflecting and exploring ways for improvement of the current mechanisms and procedures of the 2003 Convention. Mr. Chair, let me explain why we believe the reflection is necessary. Until today, this committee and the General Assembly have repeatedly discussed about improvement of the mechanisms and the procedures of the Convention. Such exercise has achieved certain results, such as the revision of the form of nomination file, the decision to reform the periodic reporting mechanism, and so on. However, the situation surrounding the Convention is dramatically changing. The number of state parties has increased from 30 to 178 over the past 15 years since the adoption of the Convention. The raison d'etre of the Convention is getting more widely accepted and recognized, but expectations and demand from state parties are also getting bigger and stronger. Against this background, Japan proposes to start the reflection on the mechanisms and procedures of the Convention so as to meet the demand of the day while respecting and maintaining the original spirit and design of the Convention. Mr. Chair, now I'd like to refer to the Article 2 of the Convention, which provides the definition of the intangible cultural heritage as certain types or forms of cultural elements that communities, groups, and in some cases, individuals recognize as part of their cultural heritage. This provision highlights the unique character of the ICH definition, which does not refer to the outstanding universal value, or UV, that is essential requirement for the inscription of the World Heritage. Thus, what is required for the evaluation process of ICH is to examine and confirm if the nominated elements meet these criteria rather than to evaluate and determine cultural values of the nominated element, let alone the OUV. This is a core part of the Convention, which we believe is still relevant and should be maintained. On the other hand, we should re-examine and update the evaluation process of the ICH, taking account of the demand of the day. For example, we have maintained the practice that the evaluation body evaluates nominated elements solely based on the information and the facts contained in the files. But this could be beneficial for them to refer to the sources other than the files, such as those available on the internet, like YouTube, especially when the nominator requests to the body to do so. This will rather help the evaluation body understand better whether the nominated element meet criteria, and thus will help decrease the number of unnecessary referrals. Based on the above-mentioned points, Japan suggests to examine the following topics in the expert meeting. 1. Nature and purpose of the list. 2. Forthcoming evaluation process. 3. Procedures for the removal of an element from a list and the transfer from one list to the other. 4. Issues concerning the follow-up of the inscribed elements on the list of the Convention. Mr. Chair, Japan is ready to actively contribute to the reflection process of the Convention, together with all other committee member states and state parties to the Convention and the Secretariat. I thank you very much.
To Japan, may I now invite Palestine to share with us his views?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like first to warmly thank Japan as well as all the donors for the extra budgetary fund of this convention. And we notice in the report and in the decision that there is a decline in this extra budgetary fund that is allocated for the two priorities that has been identified that we see in the report about the capacity building principally and sustainable development and the ICH through education. Well, my question to the Secretariat, in case and only in case if this decline continues and only if there is no extra budgetary fund, could it be possible to have these activities on the regular fund? This is the first question. Secondly, thank you for the report, very clear report, but I have some concern about the figure that you showed for the timeline. We understand that the next step will be the reflection meeting in Japan in 2019. And then the General Assembly, and after that, after the 14th there will be the ad hoc working group, and in the timeline that you showed, if we can see it again, there is no mention about the group between the two sessions. What about it? Could you please explain and put it back on the screen? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, let us in the meantime take a few more views. I have on my list now Colombia, Azerbaijan, Philippines, Netherlands, and Armenia. Colombia, please. No. Okay, no, Armenia, no. We have Colombia.
Gracias, presidente. En primer lugar, agradecer las contribuciones de Holanda, China, Finlandia, Kazajstán y Montenegro al Fondo de Patrimonio Cultural Inmaterial. Y de igual manera, presidente, agradecer al gobierno del Japón por propiciar este diálogo que tiene que ver con un asunto estructural de la Convención de 2003. Agradecer que también este diálogo vaya a tener lugar en París, en la sede de la UNESCO, lo que va a facilitar aún más la interlocución de todos los Estados miembros de la organización. Y por el otro lado, presidente, algunos aspectos en materia, en relación con el reporte de la Secretaría.
Bueno, me voy a apagar aquí un poquito. Pues como país quisiéramos resaltar la importancia de buscar fondos para seguir fomentando esta iniciativa sobre la salvaguardia del patrimonio cultural inmaterial en la educación formal y no formal. En este sentido, Colombia está 100% comprometido con esta iniciativa de la Secretaría, pues consideramos que la alianza entre patrimonio cultural inmaterial y educación genera desarrollo sostenible, pero genera también procesos sociales y económicos sostenibles para las comunidades en su propia lógica. Y en ese sentido también quisiésemos ofrecer al comité nuestra experiencia y nuestras metodologías en educación terciaria y en las escuelas taller, que han sido una estrategia a través de la cual hemos logrado generar salvaguardia de oficios tradicionales y también fomentar la salvaguardia de conocimientos tradicionales de las comunidades para las poblaciones vulnerables y para generar oportunidades de vida en diferentes territorios de Colombia. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Colombia. Now we are going to hear Azerbaijan.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Azerbaijan would like to thank the Secretariat for the detailed report on the contribution to the ICH Fund. We would like to join the other delegations in expressing its full appreciation of the countries who have provided support to the implementation of the Convention since the committee's last session. We also would like to thank the government of Japan for having provided the contribution to the ICH Fund, for launching this very important reflection procedures on the removal of the element from the list and transfer from the another list, as well as on the nature and purposes of the list and the register established under the Convention. Our delegation is confident that this work will help to clarify multiple questions linked to the status of the elements inscribed and purposes of the inscription, and as well as we would like to confirm our active participation in this reflection process. My delegation would like also to share the concerns with the decline of the extra budgetary resources to the capacity building strategy of the Secretariat, which we believe is one of the instrumental ways to better implement the Convention. Azerbaijan is one of the supporters of the Secretariat for the capacity building projects, and we believe that this is a unique system which provides the state parties a better understanding of the Convention and serves for the implementation, efficient implementation of the Convention. When it comes to the issue that we have been following through the work of the UNESCO, the UNESCO Executive Board, the management cost rates, which was decided to be applied at 7%. In this regard, our delegation has a practical question to the Secretariat. Considering the decision of the 2004 decision of the board to allow the governing bodies to undertake necessary consultations with the committee, we wonder if any consultation is planned to be happen between the sessions of the committee, and if so, what will be the timing and format of such consultations? I thank you very much.
Thank you, Azerbaijan. May I now request Philippines?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In a way similar to the statement made by the Palestinian delegation, our only comment is on the timeline of the reflection on the listing mechanisms. We note the preparatory experts meeting supported by Japan is scheduled in 2019, which is good. But the open-ended intergovernmental working group on the matter is proposed only for 2021, which is 3 years from now. Based on the timeline, any suggested amendments to the operational directives would only be taken up by the General Assembly in 2022, which again seems quite a long time, 4 years down the road, when addressing these matters are quite urgent. In this regard, we think that the General Assembly in 2020 should be utilized to adopt amendments to the operational directives that can improve the system, especially if they were widely supported. It may thus be useful to hold an initial meeting of the Intergovernmental Working Group in 2020. Another meeting would be held in 2021 and or 2022 as necessary to continue the process of reform. And cognizant of the comments made by the Secretariat on the complexities, if we maintain the suggested timeline, hence keeping in place the present system until 2022, then we urge that the dialogue procedure be adopted soonest. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Philippine. May I now request Netherlands to comment, and thereafter we'll hear the views of the Secretary on all these issues. Netherlands, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. The Netherlands would like to thank Japan for its generous contribution, and we would like to express our interest to participate in the process of reform where possible. We share the concerns already expressed and find the serious decline in earmarked voluntary contributions in the past years worrying. The Netherlands is a strong supporter of the Global Capacity Building Programme because we believe it represents the essence of the Convention, since it contributes to safeguarding on all levels, communities, NGOs, and state parties. These earmarked voluntary contributions can be very effective when the Secretariat is able to match needs and resources. This way, capacity building programs can cater to the specific needs of regions and communities. The Netherlands would like to underscore paragraph 8 in draft decision 6, in which contributors are encouraged to support the achievement of the goals set out in the 2 funding priorities through earmarked voluntary contributions to the fund. In the past years, the Netherlands has financed capacity building in Suriname and the Dutch Caribbean islands. Since that project is almost ended, we now have the intention to start contributing to the safeguarding of ICH in formal and informal education. Education on all levels is of the utmost importance in the safeguarding of ICH. The Ministry of Education, Culture and Science in the Netherlands is currently working on a new national curriculum. The ICH experts within the ministry are working on the implementation of ICH in this new curriculum. My delegation emphasizes the importance of using bottom-up approaches that involve community members and NGOs. We also believe young people can greatly contribute to safeguarding intangible heritage. There are good examples of this already. In several national committees, for instance, young people are active in involving other young people in the values of safeguarding heritage through peer-to-peer education. The Netherlands wonders if these initiatives could be connected to each other through the UNESCO Associated School Network to work more globally on awareness raising and ways to safeguard ICH. In general, we wonder if somehow more insight can be provided in the different initiatives in education and ICH, since a lot of member states are active on this subject, and we could learn from each other's good examples. Thank you.
Thank you, Netherlands. May I ask Mr. Secretary to respond on the few issues which have been raised?
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I understand. I'll try to elucidate some of the questions we had. There was 2 questions concerning the timeline. There was also a question concerning regular program use from Palestine, a question concerning ASP.NET from the Netherlands. And I think those covers the questions. Oh, and from Azerbaijan, the question about the management costs. Allow me to start with the timeline, and we do understand there are 2 factors. First of all is whether the issues surrounding the inscription process need to be fully reformed comprehensively and holistically, or whether it's taken a staged approach in order to simply be able to do the work required. And I also remind that we have ongoing requests to do, including those on the reform of the ICH, of the NGO accreditation system, on the development of guidelines for ICH in emergencies, in particular scheduled to happen next year. That gives us 3 expert meetings next year. And I remind you, in General Assembly years, we need to organize both a committee meeting and a General Assembly anyway. So part of the problem really is the calendar year and the number of statutory meetings we are already required to organize. So if we look at this timeline, and then the other part is to consider that more funding may come towards this process. At the moment, we have the very generous offer as it stands, but we do hope that there might be further sources of funding to have more consultations on this process. So the plan is to have, as I said, by next year, given that we have to do also an expert meeting on the ICH accreditation and an expert meeting on the situation of intangible cultural heritage in emergencies. We feel our capacity allows us to plan from this, and I'm not only talking about budget capacity, I'm just talking about available time, to hold the first meeting in September next year, okay? Which means we can only give a progress report at the 14Com. Now, the committees are themselves consultation processes. The idea of presenting an item to the committee is also to get further feedback from committee members. So we consider the committee meetings as part of the intergovernmental consultation process in themselves. So that means the 14Com, and it goes quite quickly, brings us to the end of next year, which is 1 year from now. And that, now, the question is whether we can go straight from the only possibility I could see was whether the expert meeting was supposed to give already planned operational directive amendments. We don't feel it's realistic. We are worried it would be rushed and there wouldn't be enough consultation unless we drop our other requirements, which are the ICH in situations of emergencies and the renewal of the accreditation system of the NGOs and reflection on their engagement. But we simply cannot keep all of these going and keep adding onto it without more time. So if something gets dropped, then there may be possibilities, but I do think that there is a question of things. So allow me please to finish through the timeline. This brings us to the June 2020, which is the next GA. To imagine the entire revision by then is, in my opinion, quite unrealistic. The transfer of an element is a sensitive issue, the follow-up to the elements, the dialogue process, the questions on how long a referral might need before it can come back for a re-examination. These are all complex questions, and if we rush them, they may not. The idea, I hope, is 15 years into the convention that we reform the convention, that it engages positively with the next 15 to 20 years, and that we are not in a stage of constantly trying to fix bit by bit issues, but to have a comprehensive and integral reform. So if we go then to the GA becomes a further broader consultation process to sense all state parties and their senses on it, since it is the GA that has the authority over these issues, and the GA gives the opportunity for all 178 state parties to discuss, which we then effectively reinitiate on another 2-year period after that. So it's not quite 4 years, it's 3 years and a few months. The one option, if it was to be quicker, could be to change at the 20 GA the title of the Intergovernmental Working Group to a special session of the General Assembly, but that would be one less intergovernmental reflection. And that requires also other complications. So to do it before 21 is really just not feasible given the resources, not only of ours, all the demands we have to do, because what this is not showing is these other processes the committee has asked us to do. If the committee is willing to withdraw other processes, suspend them, there might be a possibility, but there's also the question of financing, because we don't have a fully funded yet intergovernmental, the open-ended working group. By that stage, we do hope to have so. Okay. This is this issue. I have some other questions I need to get to. Firstly, on the regular program funding for those two funding priorities, and I did hear a comment that they're both declining, which is not quite the case. One is a new funding priority, so it hasn't declined because it needs to start. The other is in serious decline, and we acknowledge that part of the issue may have been the accumulation of the fund, of the international assistance mechanism, which did make it more difficult to attract funding when there is unused money in the fund. That trend seems to be reversed, and indeed we are seeing quite an encouraging use of the fund for capacity building projects. But of course we expect the fund to start decreasing quickly, and there is a severe risk that if the fund gets decreased through the improved access to the IA mechanism, we will find ourselves in a gap. And I think the next 18 months will be critical in that sense, where there will be no possible funding. Now RP, we are already giving RP, but RP is hardly enough. We have what we call the incompressible costs, which are related to the organization of the statutory meetings of the convention, which by far take up the most of the regular program money available. The rest is given to field officers, but you are well aware that they are highly limited. And as I reported early on, the RP money for this biennium has already been allocated to these funding priorities, but only as, in a sense, seed money to try to mobilize more extra budgetary resources. Concerning the question from Azerbaijan, indeed, it is the General Assembly that will have to make the decision on this for referral back. So this is the first consultation step. We have between now and the next committee may make a recommendation to the General Assembly of state parties. If there is a request for electronic or meeting consultation, we would please urge it to keep low-cost consultation. We are quite happy to do that, and there could be a consultation amongst all states. We could do an email consultation, for example. Perhaps we can think about this and come back in order to get an idea on whether to apply the 7% also to the assessed contributions of the fund. And then for the Netherlands mentioned the possibility of working with AASPNet. Indeed, I'm glad to say that we're just about to start an EU-funded project which will specifically work on ICH with the AASPNet. So that's a first initiative that we'll be starting, and we're very open to looking at that possibility in other contexts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Do I have Palestine and Philippines who want to respond?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try to be very brief. Actually, I have a question. Maybe in order to save time and to go a little bit faster with this process, because there is a need, you know, Mr. Chair, can't we program the initiation, reflection, the meeting of experts instead of having it next year in September, which is 9 months? Could it be a little bit earlier? And this will save at least 1 year. This is the first question. Second question, don't we need immediately after the outcome of the expert meeting to have the open-ended working group in order to continue the business on this item? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All here, Philippines.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. We appreciate the responses of the Secretariat to our points. Similar to the distinguished delegate from Palestine, we'd just like to say we understand the constraints expressed by Mr. Curtis and the Secretariat about the scheduling. We understand that it's not easy. We definitely don't want anything to be dropped. That's the first point. But just going straight to the matter on substance is that we feel that any possible reforms, especially on dialogue, which we've already been taking up at the committee for a number of years, in the ad hoc working group as well, and in the last General Assembly. If there's some, and I wish to note that our committee next year has already decided that it would take a decision on dialogue at the 14 COM. Hence, all we want to emphasize is that at the 8th GA in June 2020, if there are any amendments, especially on dialogue, that are ready, that they not be included in this overall holistic reflection, which will take so long, but perhaps they could already go through at the 8th GA. That's the sole point that we want to make and emphasize. But we do also seize the points raised by a distinguished colleague from Palestine too, which deserve merit as well. Thank you.
Philippine, can we hear the views of the Secretary on that issue?
I hear two different issues, and one is concerning dialogue and one is concerning the overall reform. And I would say it's not just that it's not easy, it's just not possible to do all three at the same time. The reflection on NGOs, the development of the things, it's not just a question of funding, it's just a question of time. If we were to go immediately from the expert meeting to the open-ended working group, we would not have had a chance for a level of consultation with the committee. The committee we see as an important consultative process in this, you see. So whether it's in September or May, the point is it comes back to the committee once after the experts before, as we did for the overall results framework. And if I may, there was some concern in the whole process with the overall, whether there was enough inclusiveness, whether there was enough consultation. And by taking that step, we were able to bring together a consensus by the time it came to the GA. And it is my opinion that it would be important also to follow such processes so that we will have two oversights of the committee. We'll have a GA, we'll have 3 intergovernmental contexts. We'll have a fully reflected so that we can have a comprehensive reform. That is the proposal. So there is both a strategic approach and there is also it's literally, I do not see how next year we can organize all the planned meetings we have planned, plus an expert meeting, plus an intergovernmental meeting. I think you are beginning to ask for the impossible in that sense. However, concerning the question of the Philippines, indeed, it is already on the agenda to be discussed next year. At the committee, we are well aware of this. Ideally, the dialogue, you know, we have looked very extensively last year at the calendar, and there are several questions around the dialogue. The dialogue is something we approve, but I'm not sure. It would be more efficient to have a dialogue once the question of the criterion has been looked at. The question of the criterion could be a way to also review the process of evaluation. So could the committee, for instance, consider an interim measure next year for the dialogue process, not necessarily immediately a change of operational directives until the broader process? So one option might be to go to the committee and get the committee to agree, and we can come back on a dialogue reform as is, in a lighter way, in a tentative way, until we get, you know, that could be initiated next year by the committee. And that would perhaps something for the informal working group again to work with, perhaps by working immediately with the evaluation body of this year in February rather than in September. And then, but we will still have the problem of the schedule, of the annual schedule, until the overall process is considered. Once the overall process is considered, we can build in the dialogue into that. So I'm very sympathetic to the questions of dialogue and the need to do something on them, whether it should go straight to operational directives in 22, or we could find a measure to have some kind of dialogue next year, which would carry us through until the overall reform is the question. But I do repeat, we're not trying to delay. We cannot juggle all of these things going on at the same time. We need the funding, and we need to take a staged approach so that we are doing what we hope will be a reform that will be sustainable for the next 15 or 20 years. And again, these reforms have happened in other conventions. They've happened in World Heritage, but they take time, and the point is to make it comprehensive. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur Curtis. Et je vois qu'il y a Sénégal et Algérie qui voudront intervenir. Ok, Sénégal, s'il vous plaît.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Pour ceux qui, parmi nous, avaient eu l'opportunité de prendre part au groupe de travail à composition non limitée à Chengdu, nous avions mesuré la délicatesse de ces questions structurelles qui touchent la réforme globale. C'est des questions complexes. Et je suis d'accord, c'est vrai avec la Philippine qu'il y a urgence, mais ces questions également impliquent un processus de concertation large des membres du comité. Et pour que le comité puisse vraiment prendre des décisions, il faut que si vous voulez, ce dialogue soit élargi, qu'il y ait le temps de ce dialogue. Ces réformes sont extrêmement importantes pour l'avenir de la Convention. Ce ne sont pas, à mon avis, des réformes qui peuvent se prendre dans un délai court. Nous travaillons pour l'avenir de cette Convention et si cela est, ça demande du temps pour être sûr que nous avons posé les actes qu'il faut pour assurer tous les mécanismes et tous les directives opérationnelles à longue durée. C'est vrai qu'il y a des urgences comme la question du dialogue, mais le comité a les ressources, toute l'intelligence de trouver peut-être en 2014 une alternative provisoire. Je ne sais pas comment je vais l'exprimer pour le moment, mais je veux dire simplement pour conclure, Monsieur le Président, que ces réformes qui touchent la Convention, elles sont structurelles, elles demandent du temps pour qu'on ne fasse pas d'erreur. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Sénégal. Et avec la permission des membres du comité, je vais maintenant demander à l'Algérie d'intervenir. Naturellement, l'Algérie est ici en tant qu'observateur.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président. Prenant la parole pour la première fois, permettez-moi de joindre ma voix à ceux qui ont remercié Maurice pour l'accueil chaleureux que nous avons reçu et vous féliciter pour votre présidence. L'accueil chaleureux, c'est l'accueil aussi de l'Afrique, la chaleur de l'Afrique qui touche les âmes et les cœurs. Et nous sommes tous ici contents d'être à Maurice. Nous souhaiterions aussi remercier le secrétariat pour tout le travail accompli et les documents de qualité qui nous ont été présentés. Je me permets de prendre la parole en tant qu'observateur aujourd'hui, ayant écouté attentivement le débat qui vient d'avoir lieu sur la réforme des directives opérationnelles et peut-être des critères. Je souhaitais juste intervenir sur le point du dialogue. Vous savez, comme cette question nous est chère, nous, Algérie, parce que nous avons été parmi les premiers à demander le dialogue quand on a été à Addis Abeba, il y a 2 sessions de cela, et nous avons aussi travaillé de manière très importante au sein du groupe de travail à composition non limitée du comité. Nous avons toujours appelé le dialogue de nos voeux et nous souhaitons que ce dialogue, comme l'a précisé le secrétariat, soit léger et opérationnel, qu'il ne rajoute pas à la charge du secrétariat et combien importante et surtout qu'il ne complique pas le travail de l'organe d'évaluation. Toutefois, il est clair que aujourd'hui cette idée de dialogue est établie et fait son chemin. Toutefois, je souhaiterais juste rappeler, avec votre bienveillance, Monsieur le Président, aux collègues ici présents dans le comité, que ce dialogue a déjà fait l'objet de 2 décisions, une décision du comité et une décision de l'Assemblée générale, qui a décidé de surseoir à ce dialogue jusqu'à sa prochaine session. Donc, je me demande sur si on essaie aujourd'hui d'aller installer ce dialogue, même de façon rapide, est-ce que nous n'allons pas contre nos propres règles, celles que nous avons édictées et les décisions qui ont été prises par les honorables membres du comité et surtout par l'Assemblée générale. Voilà, donc telle était ma remarque en tant qu'État observateur. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Merci beaucoup l'Algérie pour ces commentaires très pertinents et je vais maintenant demander au secrétaire s'il y a rien à ajouter. Peut-on maintenant... Vous avez quelque chose? Yes. Let us hear the secretary first.
I'd just like to come back to the issue raised again by Azerbaijan on the management costs. Again, I remind that a decision was made in the World Heritage Committee under the World Heritage Fund not to apply to the assessed contributions. The committee is free to make that decision now, and this is a consultation process, but if you wish, we go back to next year. The draft decision in its current form is to take note. It will have to be decided by a committee before the GA, but we have planned for the committee to be the consultation process.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I now consider that it's time for us to adopt the draft decision 13.6 as shown on the screen. I suggest that we proceed paragraph by paragraph. Paragraph 1, citing the documents that we have examined. Any objection? Adopted. Paragraph 2, recalling Article 25.5 and Chapter 2 of the operational directives. Adopted. Paragraph 3, recalling our previous decision. Adopted. Paragraph 4, commending government of Japan for its generous offer of a voluntary supplementary contribution. Adopted. Paragraph 5, accepting this generous contribution from Japan and approving its specific purpose. Yes, I hear Philippine. Yes, Philippine.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. Just at the end of the sentence, when we request that the Secretariat ensure its proper planning and implementation, we'd like to add, taking into account the debate at its 13th session. Taking into account the debate at its 13th session, where we discussed how some of the issues could have an, especially dialogue, may have an interim measure, or if necessary, we think perhaps even operational directives could be ready also as well. Thank you.
We have now a draft as proposed by Philippines. Or Palestine has...
Just to support the amendment made by Philippines. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Yes, Sénégal.
Cet amendement, Monsieur le Président.
We are approving this paragraph with the amendments proposed and seconded by 2 members. Adopted as amended. Paragraph 6. Taking note that no supplementary voluntary contribution to the fund have yet been received. In line with the 2 funding priorities and expressing its concern in this regard. I think that we all share the same preoccupation. Adopted. Paragraph 7. I suppose the committee is happy to thank all the generous donors that supported the convention since its last session. Adopted. Paragraph 8. To encourage state parties to further support the convention through voluntary supplementary contribution. Let me also ask Chairperson to personally encourage all donors to contribute to the fund through this mechanism, as we know about the financial situation of our convention. Are there any objection? Adopted. Paragraph 9. Regarding management cost rates. Adopted. And finally, the standard closing paragraphs. Paragraph 10, regarding progress report. At our next meeting, adopted. We have now adopted each of the paragraphs, and we need to adopt the decision as a whole. I therefore declare decision 13.6 as amended adopted. Let us now move to item 7A, examination of the reports of state parties on the implementation of the convention and on the current status of elements inscribed on the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. May I request Mr. Curtis to present this item to us. Mr. Curtis, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Avant de vous présenter ce point, je voudrais attirer l'attention du Comité sur la réforme en cours du mécanisme de soumission des rapports périodiques sur la mise en œuvre de la Convention de 2003, qui a débuté immédiatement après la 7e session de l'Assemblée générale, en juin dernier, avec l'approbation du cadre global des résultats et la révision des directives opérationnelles sur les rapports périodiques. Des détails supplémentaires sur la réforme et les activités en cours qui y sont associées seront présentés et discutés au point 8 de l'ordre du jour, réforme du mécanisme des rapports périodiques. Toutefois, permettez-moi de vous rappeler qu'en raison de la période de transition établie par le Comité à sa 12e session, l'obligation statutaire des États parties de soumettre leurs rapports périodiques sur la mise en œuvre de la Convention et sur les éléments inscrits sur la liste représentative avant les échéances du 15 décembre 2018 et 2019 est suspendue. Cela signifie que la présente session du comité examinera pour la dernière fois les rapports périodiques présentés selon le calendrier basé sur la date de ratification telle que décidée par le comité l'année dernière. Cette année, le comité est chargé d'examiner 32 rapports périodiques et doit en donner un aperçu à la 8e session de l'Assemblée générale en 2020. Le document de travail, ITH 18-13-7A, est composé d'une partie introductive et une annexe composée de 5 parties. Avant de vous expliquer chaque partie, permettez-moi de vous informer que le secrétariat a publié une version révisée de ce document de travail afin d'indiquer dans le résumé du rapport présenté par la Mongolie, numéro 18, que tous ces éléments inscrits sur la liste représentative sont couverts par le rapport révisé soumis par la Mongolie après une lettre d'information supplémentaire au secrétariat. La partie 1 de l'annexe donne un aperçu général des rapports périodiques de 2018. Le tableau figurant au paragraphe 4 de l'annexe contient la liste des 32 États ayant soumis leur rapport pour le cycle en cours. Le tableau suivant, au paragraphe 5, donne des détails sur les 38 États qui auraient dû présenter leur rapport cette année. Permettez-moi de souligner encore une fois que la suspension de la date limite de soumission des rapports en 2018 et 2019 est également valable pour les rapports en retard qui ne sont pas soumis à ce jour. Par conséquent, les 38 États dans ce tableau soumettront leur prochain rapport dans le cadre du premier cycle de rapports sur base régionale à venir. Les 32 rapports à examiner avant couvrent 148 éléments inscrits sur la liste représentative, dont 16 sont des inscriptions multinationales. Il convient de noter que 3 États parties n'ont pas fait rapport sur 4 éléments inscrits sur la liste, à savoir le Bhoutan pour la danse des masques des tambours de Dramets, proclamée à l'origine en 2005 puis incorporée en 2008, la Chine pour les 24 périodes solaires, la connaissance en Chine du temps et les pratiques développées à travers l'observation du mouvement annuel du Soleil, inscrit en 2016, et l'Inde pour les 2 éléments, le Nowruz inscrit en tant qu'élément multinational en 2019 et élargi à d'autres pays en 2016, et le yoga inscrit en 2016. La partie 2 de l'annexe donne un aperçu des principaux sujets traités dans les 32 rapports soumis pour ce cycle, à savoir le cadre institutionnel, les inventaires, les mesures de sauvegarde prises au niveau national, ainsi que la coopération bilatérale, sous-régionale, régionale et internationale pour la sauvegarde du patrimoine vivant. Dans la partie 3 de l'annexe, vous trouverez une analyse approfondie des rapports soumis depuis 2011. Pour ce cycle, l'analyse se centralise sur les mesures prises par les États parties pour la sensibilisation à l'importance du patrimoine culturel immatériel. Plusieurs mesures adoptées par les États sont mises en lumière par l'analyse, notamment l'implication des divers acteurs pour assurer un impact plus large, la reconnaissance du rôle central des inventaires et leur accessibilité, ainsi que les proclamations des journées, années et semaines du patrimoine. L'une des mesures importantes est relative aux festivals culturels, qu'ils soient déjà existants ou bien nouveaux. De plus, la communication et l'engagement des médias est également souligné comme un rôle important pour accroître la prise de conscience au sein du public. La partie 4 de l'annexe offre une brève analyse générale sur le statut des éléments inscrits sur la liste représentative. Cette analyse prend en compte plusieurs dimensions relatives aux éléments tels que les conséquences des inscriptions, l'évolution de la portée des éléments, les efforts faits pour le promouvoir ou le renforcer, ainsi que bien sûr la participation des communautés aux activités de sauvegarde et aux exercices de reporting. Enfin, les entités compétentes impliquées dans la gestion et la sauvegarde des éléments inscrits sont aussi prises en compte. La partie 5 de l'annexe fournit les résumés de chacun des 32 rapports reçus. Cette année, les résumés correspondent aux informations fournies par les États à la section 1.6, résumé de leurs rapports respectifs. Ils seront publiés sur le site Internet de la Convention avec les résumés des rapports examinés par le comité entre 2011 et 2017. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I will now open the floor for a general debate and perhaps also invite members who submitted a report to share with us their experience and the challenges and opportunities encountered while preparing and implementing the convention at the national level. Do I see any
observers are invited? Any states have submitted?
Okay.
No, none of the submitting states. Say none of the submitting states wish to.
In that case, can we move? Yes, I see Philippine who wanted to comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The periodic reports of state parties hold a wealth of information that reveal, among others, common challenges that stakeholders face in the safeguarding of elements. This is crucial for the future of the Convention as we delve into emerging issues such as the monitoring of elements after inscription on the lists. As we align the reporting of the periodic reporting procedure with the overall results framework, which we will be taking up under item 8, we might also ponder how the reporting process can be made more meaningful for all parties concerned, and not just an administrative obligation, which the committee takes note of and transmits to the General Assembly. The committee might consider giving more detailed and interactive feedback to states parties. Besides the synthesis provided by the Secretariat, can there be a better way in which to distill and discuss best practices and lessons learned from the various reports? Could this be an area for accredited NGOs perhaps to play a role? Taking inspiration from other international bodies, could the peer review system be fathomed in which the committee would review periodic reports of state parties and adopt observations for each state party? This may help move the paradigm from focusing on the lists to zeroing in on outcomes and results on the ground. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Philippine, for this very interesting suggestion. I see Austria and Jamaica also. Can I ask Austria to share with us, and Azerbaijan also afterwards?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I would like to join the delegation of Philippines in commending all states parties who have submitted their reports on time. And we also thank the Secretariat for their in-depth overview of the reports. Now, these reports are not only an essential tool still for the committee to fulfill one of our core functions as mentioned in Article 7, but they can also be used as primary sources for scientific, technical, and artistic studies. And looking at the 2018 reports, I felt that they are also a valuable source of information for our current thematic priorities, such as ICH and education. Examples that are mentioned are inter alia experience-oriented approaches or summer schools in ICH management. The reports further contain options for participation of NGOs in the implementation of the Convention on the national level, which should be considered in our international discussion of the same issue. Another benefit of the reports is that they mirror somehow the impact of international assistance, for example, in the field of inventory making. And one last point I would like to make is the update on the current status of elements inscribed on the representative list. Austria has repeatedly raised concerns about the missing updates, which should contain a reflection on changing factors that might affect the status of an inscribed element where applicable. And we therefore highly appreciate the generous contribution of the government of Japan to the fund, which provides an excellent starting point for an inclusive reflection process on our listing mechanism. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Australia. May I now invite our friends from Jamaica?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, Jamaica would like to express its gratitude to UNESCO for facilitating our participation in this meeting. And we also would like to thank our hosts for the generosity of their welcome, and we look forward to continue enjoying your hospitality during the course of the week. In terms of the report, it was an interesting experience for us. It was the first time that we were actually having to report on the element that was inscribed, the heritage of the Moortown Maroons of Jamaica. And it provided an opportunity for us to actually evaluate the status of the element. So while it was a necessary function in keeping with the requirements of the convention, it also served our own purposes in terms of evaluating the status of the element. And going forward, we appreciate and accept the modifications that have been made to the reporting cycle, and we trust that this will improve even further our ability to monitor on a constant basis the status of elements inscribed for Jamaica. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamaica. Azerbaijan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Azerbaijan thanks the Secretariat for the detailed document prepared for the examination of the last periodic reports on the implementation of the Convention. We commend the 32 member states for the reports submitted for the current cycle, and we welcome the efforts of the concerned state parties to meet the reporting requirement, even if a reform of periodic reporting is currently being put in place. Our delegation also welcomes the quality of the overview and the summaries of the periodic reports, which in our view provide very detailed and structured information to allow the committee to follow and monitor the implementation of the Convention at the country level. We particularly like the fact that a large number of countries have advanced with the efforts to ensure sustainable transmission of ICH, while involving to the extent possible the communities concerned, as well as enhancing inventorying and research efforts. We note with a great appreciation the fact that multinational nominations continue to contribute to the international cooperation even after the inscription of the elements into the list of the conventions, as countries increasingly continue to engage into joint safeguarding and promotion activities over the common heritage. Finally, we also note that a large number of countries have not submitted the reports yet, and we expect the reform of the periodic reporting mechanism will remedy this situation through the regional reporting, where guidance for the state parties' concerns will be provided. We encourage the member states to fulfill their reporting obligations, and the committee should monitor this issue very closely. I thank you very much.
Thank you. I now invite Zambia to share with us his views on those reports.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. To begin with, I would like to just commend the Secretariat for coming up with an elaborate report such as this one. And also commend the two countries that have successfully submitted the reports. My area of concern is that we have a number of countries that have defaulted, and we do not know why the default rate is quite high. I'm concerned because when I look at the list here, a number of them actually are from my Group 5A, and I feel quite concerned. So I would like to find out whether the Secretariat would want to put in place a mechanism that may, some kind of a survey to find out why the default rate. Is it capacity, or is it just lack of interest, or what? And once we're able to establish the reasons for this, I would want us to go further and begin to establish what is the pattern that's involved. Is it the same countries that keep failing to report, or is it different countries that fail to report at different times? And which electoral groups seem to be defaulting more? I think there must be a reason to why there are these defaults. So I think my point is that I think there must be a need for us to come up with a mechanism to establish why certain things are happening. I mean, I come from an academic background, so I think it's very, very important for us to have some kind of surveys for us to have informed, to make informed decisions. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Zambia. Maintenant, je vais demander à nos amis de Djibouti.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le point relatif à la rédaction du rapport et de leur dépôt a retenu toute mon attention, et Djibouti a été parmi les 32 pays qui ont déposé le rapport. C'est vrai que Djibouti a accusé un retard de 3 ans. On devait le faire en 2014, on l'a déposé avant le 15 décembre 2017. Et parmi vous, je crois que c'était vous, Monsieur le Président, il est important de s'interroger pourquoi ce retard. Le retard, est-ce qu'il est dû, comme m'a dit la personne précédente qui vient d'intervenir? Il y a beaucoup de facteurs. Premièrement, le facteur le plus important, c'est la nécessité de renforcement des capacités. Première chose. Deuxièmement, c'est la mobilisation de toutes les personnes et toutes les parties qui interviennent au niveau de la rédaction du rapport et de la mise en œuvre de la Convention. Là, au niveau de Djibouti, je tiens à remercier le facilitateur qui m'a aidé, par exemple, Mohamed Lemine, qui était déjà m'aider, également Mme Karel Montey du bureau de l'UNESCO de Nairobi. Ça, c'est très important au niveau de l'implication des facilitateurs, des personnes ressources qui puissent aider. Et surtout, ça constitue le mémoire de l'état d'avancement de la mise en œuvre de chaque pays. Et à ce niveau, il faudra qu'au niveau du secrétariat de la Convention et du comité, prennent conscience de l'importance de tenir compte de l'état des rapports et de cibler, d'orienter leur programme de renforcement en fonction des priorités des pays. Je vous remercie. Et des priorités et des besoins des pays. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup. I have 2 more members on the list, Poland and China. Poland, please.
Thank you, Chair. As Poland has submitted its first report, we would like to share our positive experience connected to the reporting process. This obligation was taken by us very seriously and helped us to identify gaps and to reflect on new mechanisms of safeguarding. We are constantly developing our national inventory that contains now 32 elements. We would like to encourage other states that are delayed with their reports to submit them, and we are ready to share our experience in this context. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Poland. And may I now end with China?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the floor. First of all, my delegation would like to commend the Secretariat for preparing such a detailed summary on those 32 reports submitted by the state parties this year. And through all the periodical reports of the state parties, we have got many various kind of information and good practices of different countries to adopt their measures and policies on implementation and safeguarding of ICH. We believe that we should take advantage of all these kind of information and good practices. Some may be very similar to what we are doing right now. For instance, for China, we now, since the year 2015, we have involved more than 118 colleges and higher education academies into those training courses and forums to facilitate those barriers and practitioners to help them to better understand the convention as well as better involved in the participation of the implementation. We have already found many similar practices by other state parties. Also, we have heard a lot of incorporation of ICH into the curriculum of schools mentioned by the previous speakers today. So we can get such kind of very effective information from all those periodical reports. And my second comment on this issue is that the big number of the delayed reports to much extent reflects the huge need for capacity building, not only for those state parties who haven't submitted their reports, even for those state parties who had already submitted the reports. Take China, for instance, because we have a large number of the population of communities, we still have we need to enhance the capacity on the implementation and specifically on the submitting of the periodic report. Fortunately, we have at the 7th session of the GA, we had just adopted the overall framework of the, and we have the 26 indicators for the overall results framework, which we could believe that will help to improve the reporting mechanism. And we also have to discuss we are going to discuss the reform on the periodic report in the coming days of this week. So hopefully we could have improved the periodic mechanism. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, China. We have a last member from the committee who wishes to intervene is Lebanon, and thereafter we have as observers Pakistan and Niger. Lebanon, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Liban figure parmi les pays qui ont soumis leur rapport cette année et qui étaient particulièrement en retard pour le faire. J'aimerais bien partager notre expérience. Ce rapport nous a permis de dresser un état des lieux de la situation de la mise en œuvre de la Convention au Liban. Et cet état des lieux nous a aussi mené à dire que notre bilan était très négatif et que cette mise en œuvre était compromise pour des raisons conjoncturelles et institutionnelles. Donc, je saisis l'occasion de remercier le Japon de nous soutenir pour relancer ce processus et finalement renforcer nos capacités pour inscrire cette mise en œuvre sur le long terme et assurer sa pérennité. Merci.
Merci, le Liban. Nous avons maintenant 4 États membres qui voudront intervenir. Le Pakistan, le Niger, Bangladesh et Maroc. Je vais demander maintenant à Pakistan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Pakistan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. First of all, let me, on behalf of myself and my delegation, thank and congratulate you, and through you, the government of Mauritius and the Secretariat for organizing this important event in such a wonderful way. Pakistan, being custodian of a rich intangible and tangible cultural heritage, takes pride in that, and it is in this spirit that Pakistan signed the Convention of 2013. This is our second report that we are submitting this year, and it has been quite a learning experience for us. I would like to highlight some of the measures that the government of Pakistan has taken to implement the provisions of the International Convention. Pakistan has a total 25 items or elements in its national inventory. We have jointly inscribed 2 elements, namely falconry and Nowruz, and this time Pakistan is presenting its 3rd and independent element, namely Suri Gajak. Pakistan has also signed an MOU with CRIHAP, under which we are organizing training courses at federal and provincial level. We have already conducted 3 of such courses, and 4th course is to be conducted in the month of December. At provincial as well as federal level, we have already notified IHC cells and the members of those cells have included at the federal level at a working group to monitor the implementation of the convention in letter and spirit. Let me also inform you that Pakistan has also, using its own resources, translated the International Convention of 2013 in Urdu language in order to promote awareness about the importance of ICH. And we have also tried to make sure that the awareness is also spread through our curriculum. We have incorporated the importance of ICH in the curriculum at various educational levels, and a separate book is also being published in this regard. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Pakistan, for sharing with us your views, and also thank you for the translation in Urdu. Maintenant, je vais demander au Niger de bien vouloir nous éclairer et partager avec nous leurs expériences.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Nous tenons dans un premier temps à remercier le secrétariat de la Convention de 2003 pour les efforts qu'il ne cesse de déployer. Donc chaque année pour la réussite de la sauvegarde du patrimoine culturel immatériel. Et nous saluons également les pays hôtes pour la qualité de son accueil et félicitons le président, le ministre mauricien pour son dynamisme affiché pendant cette session. Revenons maintenant sur la question des rapports. Le Niger fait partie des pays en retard, mais du point de vue rédaction, nous avons fait presque toutes les bases. Donc la collecte au niveau interne, la rédaction toujours au niveau interne. Maintenant, ce qui nous bloque un peu, c'est la validation avec toutes les parties prenantes, puisqu'on ne peut pas les mettre en ligne sans pour autant que ça soit validé au plan interne. Mais nous demandons au secrétariat de temps à autre de désigner des facilitateurs au niveau de certains États qui sont en retard, et ça donne la progression le plus rapidement possible et la mise en ligne. Voilà. Donc je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président. Merci.
Merci, Niger. Now it's my pleasure to invite Bangladesh to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And first of all, allow me to congratulate you on assuming the chairpersonship of this meeting, and also convey our delegation's deep appreciation for the warm welcome that we have received since our arrival in your beautiful city. I would also like to commend and compliment the Secretariat for the summary and the report that they have prepared. On the report, I think that has given a better insight into the process of preparing report. This was the first submission that we have made under the 2003 convention, and reported on the status of the elements that have been inscribed in a representative list. We were a little bit late, a year or so, but the process of preparing the report had been very rewarding in terms of understanding where the gaps lies and what we need to do in terms of safeguarding our elements. And in this process, we firmly believe that the communities lies at the heart of safeguarding measures, and then we have continued to ensure that at every stage of data collection, the consultation with the communities have been very robust. We will continue to make effort that we submit our report on time, and we'll again like to register our appreciation to the committee, to the Secretariat for providing us the document, which was extensive and very useful guidance for our future reporting. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Bangladesh. Now I'll invite Morocco to take the floor. Le Maroc.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Et comme merci de nous donner la parole en tant qu'observateur, et comme c'est la première fois que nous intervenons, je voudrais remercier
Maurice pour son accueil chaleureux et remercier le secrétariat pour les documents qui ont été soumis aux membres du comité. Si vous me permettez, je voudrais me permettre une réflexion, quelques réflexions d'ordre général très brèves sur les rapports. D'abord, quelque chose que nous constatons au niveau des États, d'après mon expérience de facilitateur, le manque d'un mécanisme de préparation des rapports au sein des États. Je vois que le comité s'efforce d'améliorer le mécanisme de soumission des rapports par les États au comité, mais en amont, il manquerait un mécanisme de préparation de ces rapports au niveau des États pour inclure à la fois les objectifs, les parties prenantes, les procédures et les résultats auxquels ces rapports doivent aboutir. Ensuite, au sein du comité lui-même, il faudrait peut-être réfléchir à des indicateurs clés qui permettent que les contenus des rapports permettent l'amélioration de la sauvegarde des éléments et plus généralement de la mise en œuvre de la Convention au niveau des États. Quels pourraient être ces indicateurs clés sur lesquels le comité peut s'appuyer pour améliorer cet exercice de soumission des rapports? Et enfin, une dernière question qui concerne cette fois-ci la liste de sauvegarde urgente. Je crois que la question a déjà été soulevée. Jusqu'à quand les éléments restent sur la liste de sauvegarde urgente? Est-ce qu'ils sont appelés à y rester indéfiniment ou est-ce que le comité doit aider les États parties à faire en sorte que leur viabilité soit améliorée afin qu'ils en sortent et peut-être rejoignent la liste représentative comme nous l'avons vu l'année dernière avec l'exemple vietnamien. Comment les rapports peuvent permettre au comité d'évaluer concrètement la viabilité des éléments qui figurent sur la liste de sauvegarde urgente? Voilà une question qui me semble importante à soumettre à la réflexion. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Merci au Maroc. And now on my list, the last intervener is from Uganda. Uganda, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Since this is Uganda's first time to take the floor, Uganda would like to take this opportunity to thank you, Mr. President, for chairing this session and giving us a good welcome. We'd also like to thank the government of Mauritius for the great welcome and hospitality received, and the Secretariat of UNESCO for coordinating and financing some of the delegates' participation at this meeting. Uganda commends all the 32 state parties that submitted the reports in time, and to say that there is an improvement on the reporting by deadline, as shown from Table 2. Uganda is one of those 32 countries which was delayed by 1.5 years. Uganda would like to report that since the ratification of the convention, this was its first report, and because there were many institutions handling intangible cultural heritage in the country, arising from a lot of awareness raised on the element on the representative list, it was therefore difficult to reach out to all these institutions. In the preparation of the report, it's important that the state parties need to interpret each section using the guidance dossier given by UNESCO. Only when Uganda did this was it able to get a good report. There is also need for early and proper documentation of all the activities of the convention before the reporting time. And there is also need for strengthened partnerships between the reporting agency and other stakeholders, such as the NGOs accredited to the convention, the communities, and the private sector. Uganda will therefore use this report in raising further awareness of the intangible cultural heritage at national level, and the lessons learned will be used to improve on the next reporting processes. However, in view of the pending recommendation to suspend the deadline of submission of the reports for 2018 and 19, of which Uganda has 2 reports which are due for 2018 and 19, I would still like to encourage the state parties to continue working in finalizing the reports to avoid the delays in the submission in 2020. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Uganda. Let me also thank all members who intervened, to share the experience and the initiatives taken, and realizing how helpful it is when preparing the report. And also there have been some very pertinent issues raised by a few members, and I'll now invite the Secretariat to comment and to share with us their feelings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Indeed, it was very encouraging to hear all the comments about the reports, and I think there were some specific questions which I'd just like a minute to address, particularly concerning, I think, some of the questions from committee members, Zambia, Philippines, and Austria, which we're looking to improve. And I think, indeed, you've touched on, the question from the Philippines touched on the very purpose of the reform that is currently underway. And some people talked about indicators. The exact intention is to use the work we achieved on the results framework in order to get that kind of information that can develop indicators and that can be used by states to track their own implementation at the national level, which hopefully will allow us to sort of allow a tool that can be aggregated at the international level, but becomes a tool whereby states at the national level will be able to make decisions on a results-based basis and within that framework. That is the intention. Until we've arrived there, we'll see how we go. But that is why the reform is underway. And that has been the discussion over the last few years in relation to the reform and the overall results framework. It will not necessarily, the peer review system is an interesting system which can be considered absolutely. It's not something that's been done to now. There's no reason, should states parties wish to engage with that system, that it couldn't be done. What we have been working on is the content of the reports and the structure of the report. But that will not necessarily address at the moment the questions raised by Austria on the elements themselves that are inscribed on the lists, which is not outside the frame of the overall results framework, but which should come up in this overall reviewing of the listing mechanisms, including under item 9 of this committee. And in concern to the questions raised by Zambia as to why countries are not reporting, part of the reason to reform to a regional cycle is to allow sort of collegial exchanges, capacity building programs in the years of the regions, so that hopefully, and this is somewhat similar to the approach that's been done in World Heritage, we can organize, particularly through our network of field offices, workshops, bringing groups of countries together to work on training and preparing in the same year for their reports. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I feel that it is now high time for us to move to the decision. May I refer you to document ITH 1813, Com 7A, and its draft decision in paragraph 5, which we have now on the screen. And may I ask the committee to adopt the draft decision 13.7 as shown on the screen. Once again, we are going to proceed paragraph by paragraph. Paragraph 1, the citation of the document. Any objection? Adopted. Paragraph 2, recalling references to the convention and operational directives, as well as previous decisions. No objection, adopted. Paragraph 3, a vote of thanks to the reporting states. Any objection? Adopted. Paragraph 4, recalling the ongoing reform and suspension of the deadlines. Any objection? Adopted. Paragraph 5, welcoming the overview and the contents of the report summarized therein. Adopted. Paragraph 6, acknowledging the findings of the in-depth study on the different awareness-raising measures adopted by the states and encouraging them to disseminate lessons learned. Do we agree? Yes, Djibouti wanted to...
Oui, Monsieur le Président. Moi, je proposerais qu'au niveau du point 6, qu'on ajoute que les résultats du débat auxquels on a pu assister et les interventions des participants puissent être prises en considération et incluses dans ce paragraphe 6.
Vous avez des suggestions? Qu'est-ce qu'on doit inclure?
On peut inclure également au niveau actuellement lié à la mise en œuvre de la Convention concernant ce sujet ainsi que tous les autres couverts par le reçu, il serait également souhaitable de prendre en considération les points sensibles, ciblés et ciblés par les différentes interventions du débat.
Est-ce que vous allez pouvoir nous faire une proposition en écrit? Comment vous voulez que le paragraphe soit libellé?
Donc, au niveau, juste après la partie, ouvrir une nouvelle phrase en considérant que les différents débats seront intégrés dans la nouvelle conception et programmation du renforcement des capacités proposées par le secrétariat.
Je voudrais avoir l'avis des membres sur la proposition de Djibouti. Okay. We have tried to incorporate the suggestion from Djibouti. You have it in the French version and also the translation in English. do I take it that there is no objection to the proposed amendment? I see Armenia wishes to say something.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We would like to ask the distinguished delegate of Djibouti to elaborate more what he means by the debates will be integrated. So, like in the rationale behind this phrase, the meaning of it. If you could elaborate more, or maybe Secretariat can also facilitate. Thank you.
Thank you, Armenia. Let us hear Senegal first, and then we are going to see how Djibouti is going to react.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. En vérité, nous comprenons les préoccupations peut-être de notre collègue de Djibouti, mais la phrase telle qu'exprimée ne nous revient pas. Bon, moi, je ne sens pas trop, quand on parle de considérants, peut-être tenant compte, c'est pas tenant compte des débats dans une nouvelle planification du programme, je ne sais pas. Mais cette phrase est, à mon avis, très... Non, il y a quand même une confusion sur le français. Peut-être qu'il faut la reformuler. Mais le considérant me gêne, moi. Peut-être effectivement que si Djibouti précise sa pensée, ça nous permettra d'avancer un peu plus et de reformuler. Merci.
Merci Sénégal. Je passe la parole à Togo qui voudrait nous dire quelque chose.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je pense que ce que vient de dire le collègue du Sénégal est fondé. On peut dire, en tenant compte des débats de la nouvelle planification du programme de renforcement des capacités. En tenant compte oui, des débats dans la nouvelle planification du programme de renforcement des capacités.
Merci beaucoup, Togo. Et,
merci.
Let us see what the Secretary has to say, or whether there's a magic formula is going to come with us.
I must say, et je vais peut-être m'exprimer, moi je ne suis pas moi-même très clair sur la demande. Est-ce qu'on nous demande d'intégrer les débats qui ont été pris aujourd'hui dans le contenu du renforcement de capacité? Parce que si vous dites qu'on doit intégrer les débats, et quels débats? En fait, c'est les discussions qu'on a là aujourd'hui. Dans la planification, nous avons un point plus tard spécifiquement sur la réforme des rapports périodiques. Et dans ce point-là, je pense qu'il serait possible de discuter de la planification du renforcement de capacité, mais je dois dire qu'il serait utile qu'on soit plus clair sur la demande qu'on nous fait.
Est-ce que Djibouti est d'accord qu'on puisse insérer... Ok, Djibouti, vous avez la parole.
Monsieur le Président, je vais essayer d'être plus précis à ce niveau-là. Les débats auxquels qu'on vient d'entendre concernaient les différents justificatifs sur le retard de la rédaction du dépôt de différents rapports périodiques. Le contenu du rapport et la rédaction du rapport étaient plus ou moins majoritairement justifiés par un besoin crucial de renforcement des capacités au niveau non seulement des communautés, des praticiens et des différentes institutions et de recherche et des représentants du ministère de la société civile participant comme partie intégrante et pour la mise en œuvre de la Convention de 2003. C'est à ce niveau qu'il faut tirer l'alarme, car le fait qu'il y ait ce retard qui doit nous vraiment retenir toute notre attention, nécessite quand même une réponse urgente. Et cette réponse urgente pourrait être la mise en place d'un renforcement des capacités renforcé. Et je veux dire pas forcé, mais plus consistant et en fonction des besoins qui ressortent des différents pays qui ont déposé les rapports ou bien ceux qui sont en retard. Je vous remercie.
Merci Djibouti. Et je veux repasser la parole au secrétaire qui va nous faire une suggestion.
Je voudrais, je pense que maintenant je comprends assez clairement le point que vous voulez faire, et je voudrais peut-être suggérer deux choses. D'abord, ces questions du niveau bas des soumissions de rapports durent depuis des années dans les comités, et nous avons entamé dans ce sens la réforme des rapports périodiques en conjonction avec l'adoption des cadres de résultats. Et l'Assemblée générale a décidé l'année dernière de justement réformer le système et une des grosses raisons, une des principales raisons pour cela, c'est de pouvoir justement élaborer un système de renforcement de capacité autour des rapports périodiques. Donc cela, c'est déjà prévu. Et nous avons dans le point 8 de l'agenda, justement, la question de la réforme des rapports périodiques. Et je pense qu'il serait peut-être plus opportun d'inclure dans le point 8 une référence au débat du point 7a, puisque c'est le point 8 qui servira de base pour la réforme des rapports périodiques, et une des raisons pour laquelle il y a une suspension, c'est de nous permettre le temps d'abord d'adapter le formulaire et deuxièmement de développer justement l'approche de renforcement de capacité qui est en demande depuis plusieurs sessions du comité. Alors si l'honorable délégué du Djibouti serait d'accord, il serait peut-être opportun de soulever ce point cette question sur le point 8 en faisant référence, qui pourrait faire référence au débat de ce point de ce comité. Je ne sais pas si vous suivez. Voilà, c'est une proposition qui pourrait peut-être aider, et ça nous permettrait aussi, ça serait l'endroit le plus approprié pour avoir l'effet que vous voulez, et ça permet un peu de temps de développer une formulation aussi. Je vous remercie.
Djibouti.
Je remercie Monsieur le secrétaire de la Convention d'avoir davantage explicité et trouvé le point convenant à cette formulation. Je vous remercie.
Ok. Merci beaucoup Djibouti pour votre compréhension. Alors, ce qui veut dire qu'il n'y aura pas d'amendement au paragraphe 6. Ok. On est d'accord? Ok, approuvé. Et finally, paragraph 7, to submit the overview of the 2018 reports to the General Assembly. Adopted. We have now to adopt the decision as a whole. Are we agreeable? I therefore declare decision 13-7 adopted. Thank you. Concerning the examination of item 7B, the plan is to start with a general debate and then proceed with the adoption of individual decisions concerning the reports on elements inscribed on the urgent safeguarding list. The Bureau meeting yesterday discussed the working method on this item, and I will soon ask Mr. Curtis to tell us more about it. Before doing so, I would like to propose that we do not immediately examine the decision on the report submitted by Azerbaijan on Shovkan, a traditional Karabakh horse riding game in the Republic of Azerbaijan. Draft Decision 13-7B1. The reason being that there are some conversations underway about this report which need some more time. Subsequently, we will also set aside for later the adoption of the chapeau for this item 7B. We will examine all the other reports as originally planned. Are we agreeable to this line of action? Okay, thank you very much. Let us now move on and examine item 7B. Examination of the reports of state parties on the current status of elements inscribed on the list of intangible cultural heritage in need of urgent safeguarding. I'm pleased to see that so many reports have been submitted in the current cycle. That is 16 out of 19 which were expected. And this clearly shows the attention that state parties pay to the viability of endangered living heritage elements and to the safeguarding measures taken to improve the situation. The number of reports is high in comparison to past years, and we need to be mindful of the need for good time management. When adopting the agenda under item 2, I have referred to a specific working method that the committee may take for the examination of this item. In consultation with the Secretariat and the Bureau that took place yesterday, 25th November. I would now request Mr. Curtis to explain in more details the specific approach that the committee wish to take on this item. Mr. Secretary, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. This year, the committee is tasked, indeed, with the examination of 16 reports submitted by states parties on the status of elements inscribed on the urgent safeguarding list. I would like to propose that this item be presented as a whole, including an overview of the 16 reports analyzed along the three main themes, namely the effectiveness of the safeguarding plan, community participation towards the implementation of the safeguarding plan and in preparation of the report, and the viability and risks associated with the element. Following the overall presentation, the floor will be open for a general debate, whereby states that submitted a report may also wish to share their experiences in preparing their report or on challenges and opportunities linked to the safeguarding of these inscribed elements. After the closure of the general debate, the committee will then move towards adopting the respective individual decisions for each report as a whole and without debate unless otherwise requested by a committee member. Once all the individual decisions are adopted, the committee will then proceed to adopting the chapeau decision paragraph by paragraph and then as a whole.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis, for your proposition and this new methodology. Does any member have any objection on this line of action or any comment to make? If there are no objection from the committee members, I would like Mr. Curtis now to present this item to us. Mr. Curtis, please.
With pleasure, Mr. Chairperson. As already mentioned, the committee has to examine 16 reports and provide a summary of those reports to the General Assembly in 2020. The table in paragraph 6 shows the list of all these 16 reports, which include 4 reports for elements inscribed in 2013, 9 reports for elements inscribed in 2009, and 3 overdue reports, 2 for elements inscribed in 2011 and 1 in 2012. The table in paragraph 5 highlights 3 reports from China that were expected to be examined at this session. However, as the committee examined the first reports on these elements during its 12th session last year, the second reports are expected to be submitted by 15th of December this year for examination at the 14th session in 2019. Thanks to the generous voluntary contribution from the Republic of Korea, which was approved in 2016 by the committee, an online reporting tool has been developed for states to submit their reports on the status of elements inscribed on the urgent safeguarding list. Latvia and Vietnam volunteered and successfully submitted their report using this online tool for 2 inscribed elements. The majority of the reports for this cycle are either the second ordinary report or a third report submitted by the states after submitting an extraordinary report 2 years after inscription. Due to the increasing number of second and third ordinary reports, the document highlights the importance of states addressing the concerns raised by the committee based on the examination of the previous reports. This year, for instance, the report submitted by Brazil on the element Yaukwa, the Enawene Nawe's people's ritual for the maintenance of social and cosmic order, takes into account the concerns raised by the committee through its decision 8Com6B taken in 2013, whereby the updated safeguarding plan has been adjusted to further align the activities to enhance the cultural aspects of the element. Dear committee members, please allow me to go through key points raised in the 16 reports along these 3 thematic lines. While I do so, the screens will show you rolling images of elements covered by the reports. The safeguarding plans implemented generally emphasize the partial or full achievement of the objectives initially set out in the safeguarding plans contained in the nomination files. 2/3 of the reports stress the importance of strengthening the capacities of the existing practitioners as well as of increasing their number. The establishment of training centers, transmission of traditional knowledge through its integration into educational curricula, and awareness-raising activities are the most common activities. 8 reports focus on the importance of youth for improving the viability of the element. For instance, the safeguarding activities of the element right of the Kaliadi Tsars from Belarus includes designing and integrating training courses for school children and creating practical workshops linked to the making of equipment related to Tsars. Another example comes from the report from France on the element Kantu in Pajela, and I apologize if I haven't pronounced properly, which demonstrates the success of integrating the traditional knowledge into educational curricula, thus increasing the number of school children attending the Pajela workshops to more than 500. 60% of the reports signal broader threats that go beyond the cultural dimension. For instance, environmental and natural resources associated with the living heritage, socio-political and economic contexts as well. The safeguarding plans highlight the broad cooperation put in place amongst different stakeholders to address these challenges. The report from Guatemala, for example, on the element Nanpach ceremony, talks about the safeguarding activities that have been designed taking into consideration the socio-political, economic and cultural realities of the communities. The safeguarding plan for the traditions associated with the Kayas in Kenya also aims to conserve and enhance the cultural and natural heritage as well as empower the Mijikenda community and their livelihood opportunities. In the case of Mongolia, safeguarding activities are mainly conducted at the national level, thus portraying the important role that central agencies play in safeguarding efforts. The reports on all the 4 inscribed elements include safeguarding activities identified in the framework of the National Comprehensive Programme for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage from 2018 to 2025. This seems to be an important action to streamline the safeguarding efforts and have a coherent approach at the national level. However, as safeguarding activities for each element require addressing specific challenges and needs, details about concrete measures for the safeguarding of each element would help in better understanding the safeguarding strategy. Therefore, Mongolia is invited in the respective draft decisions to update the safeguarding plans and provide further details in its next reports. The document highlights the importance of the international assistance that has been granted from the Intangible Cultural Heritage Fund to safeguard some of its inscribed elements. Such is the case for Uganda, that received an international assistance in 2017 for community-based self-documentation and revitalization of ceremonies and practices associated with Mpako naming system. A description of how such assistance has helped to safeguard the element will allow the committee to better understand its impact. States are generally encouraged to coordinate these actions with the ongoing safeguarding measures as per submitted file. Overall, the majority of states reported that communities play an important role in designing, implementing and monitoring the safeguarding plan. An increased involvement of non-governmental organizations, associations and local governments has been emphasized, such as in the report from Latvia on the element Suti cultural space, where details upon the open community participation approach for the preparation and implementation of the safeguarding plan has further led to a multi-annual cooperation with live communities in Latvia and the Seto and Kinu island communities in Estonia. A similar approach is being witnessed in Kyrgyzstan for the safeguarding of the art of Kyrgyz traditional felt carpets, as well as in Mali for the element Sankemon, whereby the communities as well as local organizations and NGOs are involved in policy development for improving the safeguarding measures. About half of the reports omit reporting on gender roles and responsibilities in the implementation of the safeguarding plan. However, the reports emphasize emphasize this aspect do mention increasing participation of women in designing and implementing these plans. For instance, Vietnam on Chatru singing reports that 80% of the practitioners are now women, and in addition, Mauritania's report on the Moorish epic Tehidin refers to the importance of the involvement of both men and women in the implementation of the safeguarding plan. Overall, the reports mention the involvement of communities in the design and implementation of the safeguarding plan. However, it seems that their involvement in the preparation of the report is still rather limited. 8 reports submitted in the current cycle include positive signals about the improved viability of the inscribed elements, in particular through increased participation of communities. However, states have signaled that some risks that affect the viability of the elements, the most common risks that were stated are change in demographics, urbanization, as well as changing migration trends. Lastly, the improved viability of the element is sometimes linked with the possible transfer of the element from the urgent safeguarding list to the representative list, as is the case for 2 reports submitted by Mongolia. The generous contribution from Japan to finance an open-ended working group and a preliminary expert meeting on some broader themes concerning the listing mechanisms will also allow a reflection on these transfers issues. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. We can finish for today.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I now open the floor.
No, I think we're finished today. 7:25. Oh, no, that's okay. Oh, no, it's okay. Okay, I'll open the floor. We have 10 minutes. I think we finished. It's better to finish.
I now open the floor. Is there any committee member that would like to take the floor at this stage before adoption of individual decision for the 16 reports? Let us move towards adopting the decision as a whole.
No, excuse me. One by one. Excuse me. No, you go straight to him. The second.
Okay.
Mali cannot take.
Okay.
Mali would take it.
Mali, please.
Ok. Merci, Monsieur le Président. C'est la première fois que le Mali prend la parole dans cette salle. C'est le lieu pour nous, au nom du gouvernement de la République du Mali, de saisir cette prise de parole pour remercier la République de Maurice pour la bonne organisation de cette 13e session, l'accueil chaleureux qui nous a été réservé. Je voudrais également vous féliciter, Monsieur le Président, et reconnaître lors de cette session vos qualités sans doute avérées pour conduire et orienter les travaux du comité. Je voudrais également remercier le secrétariat pour l'ensemble du travail abattu, aussi dans la préparation des documents, des qualités de cette session. Le soutien multiforme du comité, son écoute, qui ont tous abouti aux échanges constructifs lors de la mise en œuvre lors de l'établissement des rapports périodiques. Et justement, parlant des rapports périodiques, et concernant les éléments inscrits sur la liste de sauvegarde urgente, le Mali a 2 éléments inscrits sur cette liste. Et chaque fois qu'on établisse le rapport concernant ces 2 éléments, nous nous demandons quand est-ce que ces 2 éléments vont sortir de la liste de sauvegarde urgente. Donc, c'est une préoccupation majeure. Les pays qui m'ont procédé ont posé sûrement la même question, notamment le Maroc. Quand est-ce que les éléments inscrits sur la liste de sauvegarde urgente sortiront de cette liste? Merci bien, Monsieur le Président. Et je voudrais aussi dire que le Mali reste toujours attaché à la mise en œuvre de la Convention de 2003 et surtout en matière d'inventaire, d'inscription et de promotion de cette Convention. Merci bien.
Merci, Mali. Algérie, s'il vous plaît.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président. Effectivement, cette question de la liste de sauvegarde urgente et le transfert de liste à liste, il faut vraiment s'y atteler et nous invitons nos collègues à y réfléchir de manière plus approfondie afin que quand nous entamerons la discussion à ce sujet, que chacun ait dans l'idée des propositions concrètes pour pouvoir établir les nouvelles règles de passage de liste à liste. Et j'aimerais aussi qu'on prenne le temps de regarder ce qui se fait ailleurs au sein de l'UNESCO, dans les programmes et les autres conventions. J'ai dans l'idée l'exemple du programme MAB, l'homme et la biosphère, où dans ce programme très petit mais très pertinent pour la planète, on a réussi à avoir au sein du CICMAB à faire adopter ce qu'on a appelé la stratégie de sortie. Ça veut dire qu'au bout d'un moment, quand un élément inscrit sur la liste du MAB, s'il ne répond plus aux critères ou si les rapports sont en retard de plusieurs années ou si la situation a évolué, qu'on inscrive cet élément dans une liste et qu'on réfléchisse à le sortir de sa situation ou en le délistant ou en le passant dans une autre liste. Cela équivaudrait à avoir un suivi plus pertinent des éléments que nous inscrivons, parce qu'aujourd'hui, nous inscrivons des éléments dans les différentes listes et on se demande quel est le devenir de ces instruments. Et il ne faut pas oublier que la première raison d'être de cette convention, c'est la sauvegarde. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président, et nous remercions également les États membres du comité de nous avoir écoutés. Merci.
Merci, Algérie. On va clore cette session avec Bélarus, parce que là, on est limité par le temps et il est déjà presque 17h30. I'll now invite Belarus to take the floor and to share with us the experience.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Indeed, today is a very important day for Belarus, because Belarus is a country which has submitted all the both reports at that period, the periodical report and the report on the state of the element inscribed in the urgent ICH list. And it is the second periodical report and the third reports on the element inscribed in the ICH list. Very big practice for reporting. And we are very happy that both of our reports were improved by the Secretariat and expert community, and I hope that they will be approved by the committee. This is a great honor and for us and a big responsibility. And these reports were completed with the involvement of many stakeholders. First of all, bearers and representative communities, expert communities, volunteers from different NGOs. And also, the both reports are based on the annual monitorings of the ICH elements and the huge research work. They are thankful to the committee for the actual recommendation concerning the improving of the safeguarding policy for the ICH in Belarus. Really, reporting is a good tool for learning of ours and understanding ourselves. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you, Belarus. Members, you will agree with me that we had a very good day. We did a lot of good work and in the right spirit. And we are already 5:30 in the afternoon. And we'll have, of course, to resume tomorrow morning. I would like to thank every one of you for the good spirit under which we have conducted this first day of our session. I would like also to thank all interpreters, and with your permission, we shall stop here for today. And of course, our session will resume tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. And just to remind Bureau members that before the session of tomorrow, we'll meet at 9, of course, to coordinate everything. With these few words, I suspend today's session and hope that you will have some time to rest and also to appreciate the Mauritian hospitality, since we are going to have light up till 7 or 7:30. Thank you very much.